Plan: the United States ought to substantially reduce its military presence in the Republic of Turkey. Removal would be safe and convert. Crazy Act 19. Another option: B-61 bombs lead to receive and make upgrade conducting U.S. soil, U.S. Castillo walk modernization, never return the bombs. Advantage 1 is nuclear posture. B-61s cause Russia miscalculated preemptive strikes. Crisis deployments make them unique. Sign 16. East wing and insular regurgitation air traffic is monitored. These nukes are convoy East Ireland. Intel flying in nuclear fight during crisis in Moscow continues. Nukes bombing first strike. These may be trying to reassure NATO ally Russian strike able missile reaching Soviet minutes and American dual cable aircraft interpreters and precursor to a first strike. The risk is high. Ukraine and awful Russian take make accidental escalation likely. Ship below 22. Putin hide nuclear Russian systems vulnerable to air risk of catastrophic mistake because more likely and high intentional of only minutes make decisions ambiguous part conflict. One nation business prevents the Russian lack of adequate monitoring. Their terrible tech Russian SAS inability to look down. Reject generic defense. Turkey's lack of pilots and the pick up and drop posture make it unique. Sign 16. B-61 debates heads will cover pick up a drop and approach in Turkey. Prompt for strike unmanned determination advocates for Turkey. Hosts aircraft Turkey D-75 pilots will on these carry the bombs. U.S. no station the wing in Turkey. First strike is written into Russian doctrine. Pride 20. Russian doctrine puts emphasis on striking first Moscow's posture relying on ICU emphasis for surprise attack. Russia war causes extinction. Convert 17. Nuclear operations in the U.S. for Russia 4,000 weapons making it possible to prove that if extinction brigade only possible between the U.S. or Russia. 90% of the nukes regional war unlikely to lead to extinction. Independently, Russia spies on F-35s at Incirlik that causes cyber attacks. Run for 19. Turkey S-400 alongside F-35 the tech that makes the aircraft lethal compromised data systems to be integrated into S-400 opens up data with the F-35 includes the S-400 collects sensitive stealth characteristics when you know the waveform you can spoof them malware on the S-400 access and folks that broadcast data to Russia operating F-35 settings still become difficult. Cyber attacks on F-35s go nuclear. Lin 21. Cyber failures of nuclear dishes are nuclear war. F-35 capable of nuclear munitions depend on software, computers control, stealth capabilities, sophisticated logistics, and exploitation of vulnerabilities in systems to impede delivery and airplane carrying not able to release. Change to a program make aircraft visible. Report finds critical vulnerabilities, test to control systems, and operate undetected. Advantage 2 is belligerent. Scenario 1 is terror. Turkey will seize the nukes and give them to Hamas. Hip 23. Erdogan called Israel a terrorist state to Hamas, described Hamas as resistant fighters pro-Hamas rhetoric, the terrorism how to fight it, address nukes in Turkey, the need to dismantle nukes in Israel, pro-Palestinian rally, try to storm in Syria, AUBs and Islam's party. Turkey has been a reliable NATO ally during the coup. Erdogan cut part of Israel, prohibited planes from taking off. Our nukes should be a strong, reliable, stable ally. Turkey doesn't fit, don't need imagination, no nukes in Turkey is a bad idea. Erdogan will mobilize mobs, steal nukes, and overrun bases. B-61s are also vulnerable to Syrian jihadist groups. Rubin 20. Erdogan is anti-Americanism, gangs assault Americans, the coup, instead of state to purge opponents of cut electricity base, not averse to hostage, configure up Turkey's separate national site. Erdogan will strike here, arrest Americans, and solar personnel could be hostages. Evacuation of nukes due to hostility of the Turkish and proximity jihadi cannot wait. Gradual withdrawal would endanger troops, depending on overnight evacuation to restore strong tension. And it's Sterling Saudi change in posture enabled Washington to navigate better. Seizure is the only risk of acquisition. Turkey doesn't have the know-how, otherwise, never shot in 23. Erdogan displays disparity between nuclear halves and not unfairness of no nuke safety. And if nukes at Sterling, Turkish join the coup, troops harass base and hold opposite nukes under constant pressure, danger to global security. Turkey get them access to provide Turkish with info on how nukes are built. Terror causes nuclear war and extinction. It bears 19. New terrorist political nuclear war terrorists and state the government strikes stronghold the regions blaze conflict escalates to nuclear chain reaction of interstate nuclear conflict that involve every nuclear state imperial existence atmospheric effects reduce ozone. Scenario 2 is revisionism. Turkish revisionism will inevitably shred the liberal order. Empirically they're diverging on every issue. Battle 5. Erdogan relationship driven off a cliff no longer ally cozied up to China and Russia decision project S-400 enable of extremist Turkey airstrikes partners close to bombing U.S. forces nationally forever held Americans hostage reviews of sanctions at Russia key destination for illicit flow supporting Russia's war held Sweden's NATO membership hostage turned back in the West for support for Hamas provide office space passports Hamas uses base to procure funds. B structurally they're status seeking and opposed to the West. TRS 12-7. Erdogan persists towards authoritarian insurgent nationalism occur make distinctions between tactical adjustments, strategic goals, vision, challenge to Western norms, democracy, and peace, has the civilizational constancy of Turkey, aspiration, challenge liberal order, evidence by Russia, and breaks to direction remains consistent U.S. collaboration, tempered by desire to control and discourage regions, fears that sets the stage for tensions, crises, and instability. Revisionism drives Turkish nuclear desire. Lynn Strauss 19. Erdogan referenced Turkey's seeking nuclear capabilities on uranium. Erdogan saving viewed in crisis relations, anti-American sentiments, accusation the U.S. was involved in the coup, eroded trust of violent policy further undermines and believes the U.S. is waiting. Turkey must prepare for multipolar system, part of broader critique of internationalism, accused community of hypocrisy. Incirlik motivates that revisionism by making Erdogan feel untouchable. The plan solved with a clear red line causing 23. Remind Erdogan Alex can be pushed to far side with the drawing from Incirlik standing up to the West plays well with the Erdogan's base until the West pushes back. Russia prove the Western results coming. We should remember Turkey, members of the Spanish and Incirlik that's important. Apparently, flashpoint Turkish pledges to find operations and pursue cooperation with Incirlik, moving president for closure, clearing the way for cooperation with the Philippines. Iceland, unambiguous pressure is necessary. Turkey weaponizes inducements to expand into the Mediterranean. List is 20. Equivocal approach convinces Erdogan no harsh measures the U.S. not clarifies stance and mentions that it's not going to tolerate behavior in the Mediterranean. Will encourage revisionist plans in the Mediterranean. U.S. approach on Kurds to Moscow. Turkey's revisions in the encourage will continue no consequences as long as the U.S. delays the red line. Possibly use existential crisis. Great Turkey always revisionist agenda hesitates not help for Turkish culture behaviors consider weakest revision will get bigger now. Is the temper American decisiveness that splits NATO and draws in France, Israel, and Egypt to August 20. Turkey's policy in the Middle East and Africa. Erdogan turns to the Aegean, the Mediterranean, Black Sea. Turkey's allies Erdogan using the West for legitimizing expansion moves from the box of dark conversation, lead blockade of Istanbul, Swiss nations, emerge conversation between Turkey, France, Egypt, Israel, no longer unthinkable. Israel drawn goes nuclear for early 20. Origins of Israeli nuclear power first states would develop military advantage. Israel using weapons of balance of data favors and involved hostility between Israel more tolerant neighbors. Turkish policy shift in a negative direction. Nuclear weapons remain part of the toolkit. French vulnerability and doctrine guarantee nuclear escalation. Leah 17. Deterrence on cards, larger arsenals, ensure second strike. France too small, never said limit war, realize ultimate warning, we realize escalation. US Soviet had more time. France has a small arsenal, vulnerable preemptive attack. Parties adopt LAW, partial commando, not be clear, risk of first use for deploy weapons in proximity. Framing the standard is maximizing the expected well-being. 1 utils and partial specific to public actors who results in infinite regress, which explains all value. Green 15. Utils message to already try to have a common metric. Utils 2 ideas, ones of partiality, social distinction, regarding reduce interest equal matters for everywhere. The answer happening so with any so why do you ultimately know the quality of conscience explains the pressure pains goods not resolving public discrimination to really explain the maximizing. Happiness 2 degrees of wrongness only util explains why killing 10,000 people is worse than lying to a friend. 3 existential risk categorically outweigh. Palmer 15. There's so no possible people reducing existential risk important deal to apply trying to reduce existential risk from which makes the last goal will be unhumanity the new future moral city. Even if they're 90% sure that their views correct, they're trying to reduce existential risk, even though 1% sure that will be a future people matters. 4 epistemic modesty framing the sliding scale and it serves to prioritize not preclude impact, so only it is logical. 5 existential risk debating is valuable. Taught in 22. Sociologists need to recognize specificity for many groups of future were closed by white settlers and colonized by Estonia. As scholars can translate urgency of the new future sensibility something more than fetishism. Apocalypse only by addressing urgency can society stand a chance of working towards new future that avoid a better face up to catastrophe. The 7 base for kind of future Mitchell discussing the old way kind of future that test indigenous peoples are living with the wreckage. Good for cross.
Okay. What's death?
Sorry, what's that?
What is death?
The state where your brain is not really like functioning anymore, and there's no chance of it.
Can you have pain when you're dead?
No, but
okay,
you can have the absence of pleasure.
What outweighs the absence of pleasure or the ability to have pain?
I don't think the one. Or actually, no, the lack of ability to have pleasure. The green evidence says that it is the quality of conscious experience that is intrinsically valuable, and in pain and pleasure are only references.
Is the AF framework normative?
What do you mean by that?
Can it explain every instance in ethics, or is it only in the instance of the AF?
Well, for the purpose of this debate, it only needs to explain the instance of the AF.
So your AF framework isn't normative, to be clear.
No, not that it is or isn't, just that it only
No, I'm
needs to
asking you a question. You've read a framework of util, said we should apply util in every instance. Is this a normative framework?
I haven't said that we should apply util in every instance. I've said we should apply it in this one.
That's not true, because the Palmer evidence says extinction categorically outweighs, and that degrees of wrongness argument is only util explains.
That doesn't mean that that doesn't...
So it only applies
no,
in
that
the
doesn't
scenario of
prescribe a decision-making framework for everything, because Palmer is only talking about existential risks.
Okay, sure. I guess on the Palmer card... it says, quote, reducing existential risk is the most important thing. Should we enslave every black person to stop extinction?
That is a choice that would never come up in any possible
In the hypothetical scenario in which it came up, would we do so?
It's irrelevant because...
No, it is irrelevant.
No, it's not, because... No, I'll tell you
You have said that... No, you have taken the stance that extinction
our
categorically
moral beliefs
outweighs.
stem from actual experiences. So
right,
moral
and I'm saying,
only
under the experience in which we could enslave...
Under
the experience in which we can enslave the entire black population to stop extinction, shall we do so?
I just answered you. That is a forced choice that never exists in real life, and our moral frameworks only stem from the experiences that we actually have.
Sure. What does it mean to be epistemically modest?
It means that we should, as judges, you should evaluate framework times the magnitude of the impacts under that framework.
Okay, how do I know the exact number of a probability of being like a framework being true?
In evaluating debate round, you always have to assign values to things that are not super particulate. That's just inevitable in deciding rounds, so it's not unique to this.
If I see a baby drowning, should I save it?
Yeah.
Okay, if that baby becomes Hitler, am I responsible?
No.
Okay, so how can I be responsible for
You're
consequences?
only responsible for the consequences you could reasonably predict.
Okay, so if an actor says that they didn't see or foresee any consequence happening, are they not responsible for that?
Well, it depends on whether they're telling the truth or not.
How do we know if they're telling the truth?
Can't.
So the AF framework is unenforceable?
No, because in this instance, the judges know, as of the reading of the 1AC, that the AF does solve extinction.
I guess. How do you know that? Okay, sure. The Tutton evidence, what's the warrant?
It says that basically not precluding futures is best for marginalized groups to achieve change.
Not preclude. Okay, sure. I'll send the doc to then case. Okay, it's in. Oh, can I use your stand?
Oh, yeah.
Alright. Just let me know when everyone's good.
Good one, Nick.
Everyone else? Okay, perfect. Interpretation of must reduce all military presence in the entire West Central North Africa region inwards and first in 08 means throughout region in dictionary the entire even area violation they expect Turkey to negate all domestic ground executive limits to every individual subset of that which means next province excuse ground based on perception of larger laws like assurance base specific disad voter fairness better government rules again about the better being Raj you to community reasonably encourages you debate theory which means that you'll always just purposely be abusive to drop the debater to go here to drop your entire advocacy no rights. Wait, I made the no RBIs warrant as competing interps. Competing interps is illogical. You can't be reasonably topically either or you aren't. Okay. The world's constructive view, white reality relies on the exchange of fungibility, black existence, and industrial in 17. Black lives is defined of white fiction, racism, consistent substituting what is another reality, conscious not unable distinction between the fiction between created by white real and that white being in the real, the value is black, more than opening real justice, even the structure of the relationship between the mythical and the real back is out of the grammar to speak where it is trapped inside white, is only articulated itself through the semiotics of whiteness, there is no outside whiteness. The one he sees Stephen on ontology of war that legitimizes fiction, rhetorical projects like the F are fuels for the white hyperreal that justify infinite violence. Obergen 14. Critique of war's ontology since World War II, the war and has taken on a lot of turns to average nationality, annihilation, state, no security, omnipotent. Any rebel be avoided to unlock annihilation, locker, complex domain with IBMs and talks on nuclear war, hyper efficiency, also made use of overcapacity nuclear war, becoming simulation wars impossible, and yet it takes place with war, an object without use value, simulation value, or space calculation, which advertising the US war, business strategy, the way of life, the US way, just efficient war, the other deny the US way, refuse to recognize its enemy, war becomes everything, wars peace, but also technology, towards the media, advertising the economy, the war, like so wars is solving a favor, global warfare becomes the way to fashion contingency, played out in the low circuit, the calculation, just in there's massive, the rest of America, in fact, in go war, helps to secure the wars that already disfigured about, under effect of the concept of leasing of political subversion, distinguishing war and policing to break down behind the simulacrum fighting to death the two adversaries in solidarity and symbolic organization there will be nothing but the virtual violence and consensual world knows that our breakdown is extinction war and peace one to be except outside white watching events and just on words like these two ways the future the reacting insensitive and neutralization possible future version that might challenge order things type war not long between the states but rather humans each against itself. The one you see is the spectacularization of events of war and rage against the excess of violence and papers over the way in which violence has become mundane and foundational for black people in civil society. They are demanded to go here black suffering to the broader scheme of illustration extinction be the production of simulated images of violence is nothing but illustrate the preparedness of empathy lost the anti-blackness within the symbolic number and comment in 15 and 14. The police feeling of Michael around those who made it literally with police and military you're all aimed at black people in 1960 and police and wars well by new equipment and technology things that funding from state street out the fear engendered by the domestic urban rallies led by black people red elections for people police turn on martial policy in inner city America the war is heroes always been your cosmolization as problems that the access against which people must rally attention is drawn to spectacular event which rather than the numbers are the main measures soliciting empathy tax on the itemize atrocities not bear the witness spectacles aroused empathy means atrocities itemize need to happen more often and get worse to become atrocities around in order to see an example for errors in empathy which blacks must tether the suffering to non-blacks in the hope of being seen in the police violence against black acts and Ferguson to become more legible when put into a conversation with that record cause any something gets lost and translated dreams and desires of the society and state will be centered on the control of the black body. Avoidance of nuclear war at all costs, just like elimination of other nuclear terrorists threat depends not acting the unending attempts here being for terror causing the annihilation of being in the world itself which is the price reason why blackness released situated as such Mitchell 105. Modern wars harass the technological advantage of object calculation terrorism metaphysics after everything happens in the replacement there would be no threat where it would not for being like the atomic bomb all beings exist if possible target possibly destroyed realities already when an attack comes or not being is already exists they change ready to destroy there are no marks that would demonstrate the person place or thing is possible there is no way that we are prepared to the ordinary terrorism is not located enough here the external power but the enemies are already inside our walls. Anti-proliferation efforts aimed at the Islamic order are the root cause of miscalculation. What he sees racism undermines his own political goals. Lockwood in 19 the international system is seriously constructed perception or filtered through an artificial civilized uncivilized economy and become irresponsible law and Western state terms an object that threat based on all story until its characterization of the self is rational and responsible sets or erroneous analysis filters into the subconscious of Western leaders and trust in increasing the risk of fatal miscalculations. I'm pulling about hostage until the affirmative tells you about negative that no permanency is in negotiation philosophy in 17 resisting linguistics when alternative form of thinking is allowed when what other ways there about a terroristic situational interruption system and semiotics the healing compounding system total disorders unleash only you have the power to end the world through death the US and the US as an international military war nuclear arms and police terrorize black terrorism is about any focus on social seals away the condition of white being responsibility the role of the battles with the understanding black suffering one we have an ethical obligation to reject racism every instance Mammy and 2K the struggle against racism we have a long difficult information probably never see that it don't struggle the undertaking without conceptual reason you notice that it's like to reinforce your injustice and violence all things that we have an interest in banishing injustice and refusing raising the condition for all your ethical practical morality being in the end the ethical choice you make the little choice of society must be decided by all the racial analysis must begin for a question might around the national will so white supremacy in Greece by ideological commitments that must interrogate the topic track to Tyson 22 white supremacy again with an imperial national or intellectual leadership and related down to the masses the theory of ideological the theory of ideological identity materializes when a populace takes part in the reinforcing power structure and ideological and the theory lead established dominant massive power and held onto the power mechanism and masses accept their version of reality the ideology disseminated orally and consistently the only ideology that reproduces down is the dominant one society allows the relative freedom the civil institution operate in the ideological field day after day without comparison and compulsion the case Overview 1, blaming a nuclear annihilation possibility on bad technology of Russia with rhetoric like, quote, Russians lack adequate monitoring and have terrible tech displaces human responsibility on the lack of upgraded technology, which encourages more in-depth militarization to resolve that lack of technology because it affects everyone too. HIP says that Turkey is irrational enough to give nukes to terrorists. They be an international pariah. They stop self-interest and may not nuke to threes. Ruben literally uses gang rhetoric to position Turkish individuals, mobs, who will steal our weapons that obfuscates the way. The U.S. is already committing mass genocide and has those weapons while reinforcing racialized stereotypes for the Novshat evidence demonizes Erdogan because he believes that nuclear apartheid is found fair, even though U.S. desire for nukes demonstrates all rational actors pursue nukes for self-defense and deterrence. It illustrates the pure and locker evidence. 5 is Edelman frames Erdogan as the evil for choosing to buy my weapons from Russia instead of us, but it proves that we only care about the violence insofar as that opposes the Western order of racial capitalism and utilitarian determinism. 1 induction. If X action lead to wider results, then X action would be influenced by a prior X action, which means that a causal change of events structure all my actions rather will. 2 utilitarian skepticism. They haven't one reason why it's normative, which means you can't guide action in every instance, which is definitionally skepticism because it means we all internal motivations. Negate 1 is not a moral obligation, meaning lack of obligation, prove obligation, false resolution. Specifically says you have to prove your obligation, you have to be obligated, lack of obligation. Simultaneously 2 proves your framework is racist because it justifies never holding people accountable for their action, which is linked to the K of Hummers in the context of ontology and has nothing to do with the Creasy on the Titan evidence. 1 flows neg. It says that we need to address society's structural problems right now, debate interface catastrophes. 2 says, quote, for many groups, futures were foreclosed by white settlers and colonizers. That's our argument. It proves that it is possible to be denied a future of the turn. Consensus AGI by 24/7 for the largest survey with the most recency. Expert audits have taken into account your warrants, but still conclude to have Grayson 24. In the largest survey, 2,778 research published all year, and AI then use the chance of the machines that were running humans every possible test was estimated 10% by 2027 to 50% by 2047, 13 years later than an earlier survey. And AGI alignment is an asterisk and outweighs the extinction. The only solution is to prevent AGI in the first place. In 22. On a line AGI will against human interest. If a vast majority of hands are wrong, some interest of human origin, AI will kill you because you can be used for paper. Online AI will take interest in your well-being and lack thereof, with words mind uploading every torture that you can think of. Purpose upgrading digital beings by the trillions for this any technology invented in history fundamentally misused weather controls. AI will happen somebody who's suffering they don't care about lock in value and never stop it until the stars burn out. As for scenarios are guaranteed to be the bias for nightmare scenarios. As for truly unavoidable except by preventing AGI never being conceive the impact nuclear wars devastating destroy civilization. Couldn't bear one its next solvency says quote wars on this scale are unlikely to lead to outright human extinction. Go the Peters evidence cross toxicity warrants are just famine and winter, which we'll just answer right now by isolating islands survive wars in green 18. Frederick Google is very remote inside the Antarctic and strong winds increase the time of radioactive lives against sunlight agitation animals ice caps red water protection against tsunamis volcanic geothermal TIs are more awareness and educated better for such as a base will not be a military target several other islands. Didn't read Solves Winter down and like cut some of the analytics in the
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Good for cost?
Yeah, let me just get a drink of water. Oh yeah, I'm good.
Warrants for the determinism and skep triggers.
1, you conceded in cross-ex that your framework isn't normative. This triggers skepticism. It means people can have different ideas about what they think is moral, and you have no way to guide action in the face of that, which means you cannot generate a universal obligation like the resolution says you have to with the word ought. 2, induction. If X action leads to Y result, then X action must be influenced by prior X action. This means that a casual chain of events structure my action rather than my will.
Okay, sure. K, what does it mean to hold a ballot hostage?
I mean, I'm confused why you're trying to find meaning in my hostage taking of the 1AC.
Okay, sick. How is the AF an anti-proliferation effort?
Sure, we've pulled quotes on case that specifically prove lines where you've been an anti-proliferation
Which
effort. Sure. Quote, Russia's lack adequate monitoring and have terrible tech was our argument about
how does that mean the AF is an
responsibility.
anti-proliferation effort? What?
Well, the AF is specifically saying that we should stop other countries from proliferating. That is the 1AC scenario. Like, what?
No, we think Russia should not. We think we should not create conditions for Russia to nuke us.
Yeah, which would be a form of proliferation. Like, you're just taking the word proliferation out of that.
Wait, can you define proliferation? What do you think
like
it means?
a country escalating?
That's not what proliferation means, dog.
No, dude.
Proliferation means when a country acquires nuclear weapons. It's not just nuking someone.
No, it's also nuking someone.
Okay. Well, will you stake that link on you being right about the definition of proliferation?
No.
Okay.
I don't think it relies on that.
Okay, fine.
The card doesn't even say the word proliferation once.
Okay, then assume I'm right about the definition and explain what the link is.
Sure. I think the card is pretty specific. It says that your fascination with the fantasy of nuclear attempts/threats are racist attempts at securitizations that are independent voter. Gives the examples of the U.S. use of nuclear weapons in World War II, murdering 246,000 people and permanently scarring the Earth with the shadows of
children.
children.
So the AF saying we should stop nuclear war is justifying Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
I mean, we've said that is creating a civilized-uncivilized dichotomy that allows for racist
But you said avoidance of nuclear war at all costs is bad, and now you're saying...
Well, that is also another link.
How can you say both?
What?
Both. How can you say both that using nuclear weapons in
Wait,
Japan was
The
bad, but
Mitchell
also that
evidence
avoiding
is
nuclear
tagged
war
to
is
say
bad.
avoidance of nuclear war, but if you look at the card, it's saying avoidance of terror. It says, quote,
Well,
terrorism is
I think what you
metaphysical
read
because
in
it
the
touches
1AC at a or 1AC at a
Well, yeah,
flowable
dude,
pace
the
is
next line
relevant.
is nuclear terror is a threat of presence, not action. Just because I said nuclear war doesn't mean that the context of the card is not about nuclear terror. Like, what?
Okay, so the tags are irrelevant, basically, to what you're
No,
going to go
because
for
the
in
tag
the
is clarified right after in the next part of the tag. It says, avoidance of nuclear war at all costs justifies elimination of other. Nuclear terror is a threat of presence, not of action.
Okay, what is white hyperreality?
Sure, our argument is that there are semiotic structures that overcode the system because things no longer have
Okay, is that
words
in, like
of-
an ontological claim? Like
No, we don't make an ontological claim.
Okay, so it's just descriptive of the status quo.
Yeah, like that we
Okay,
claim that this is the way whiteness is operated in the status quo and the way blackness is operated in the categories of whiteness in the status quo.
Okay,
So
so
we say you reify that, and the alternative can solve
Crap.
that.
16, sending it out.
Wait, 16 left?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Order is case T, K. Case is, I guess, in order. So K links, the determinism and skep triggers, the spark shell. Well, let me know when everybody has it.
Yeah, I'm good. Wait, I think you sent like a whole file.
Oh,
Not
that's
like,
my bad.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now you got the dark delusion answers too.
Oh shucks. That was the second option for them. Okay. I'm good.
You all good? Case conceded nukes and Sterling are destabilizing Russia and incentivizing a preemptive strike that causes nuclear war and extinction should be a sufficient overview given that it conceded this scenario. The K-links. First, the one point about displacing humans. Firstly, humans built the text, so this link doesn't make sense in that context. Secondly, they haven't read an impact of displacing the role of humans in nuclear war. Thirdly, you read an AGI impact, so this cuts both ways. The group, the 2, 4, and 5 links, these all are based around constructing Erdogan as irrational. That's good. They haven't given a reason why constructing Erdogan as a person as irrational is bad. This is not a construction of Turkish people broadly or Islamic people broadly. It's specifically Erdogan is evil and he's in control of an evil regime. If they've conceded our revisionism claim, it's just true. And given they haven't contested it, the stuff about mobilizing mobs, that's true of every country. It's our problem again is with Erdogan, who mobilized the mobs, not with the mobs themselves. The skep triggers, the determinism triggers. We didn't say the framework wasn't normative, just that we don't have to take a stance. It does generate an obligation in this round to stop extinction, so it's irrelevant. The skep triggers, induction doesn't prove skep triggers. They've asserted causality when we don't know that each action has a prior question. There could be something transcendental in our brains causing action, and this is just not justified. It's purely analytic, and they don't have any cards on it. They also didn't define the word negate, so you don't know that truth testing is true. This is unwarranted as of the 1 and C. The spark shell. That causes nuclear war causes extinction. Turners. When nuclear war carry widespread fires, crop plants, and pollution protection will plummeting, produce climate change unprecedented. Even small causes nuclear war, nuclear winter, radioactive dust will block out the sun, creating global famine. Upload would affect the planet's ability to sustain life, which in the historic times would drop by more than 3 times as much as the difference between now and the last ice age smoke would say after their years extinction cannot be excluded. The island they're referring to in their study is uninhabited now. Their evidence just like advocates for building a base there. It also doesn't answer nuclear winter. The Ogundare evidence does say extinction. It says it's only plausible in a war between the US and Russia because there are so many nukes. AGI is structurally impossible and harmless. Conventional threats outweigh hole 21. That has been overblown, so abysmal in probability madness. So where the obvious threat is nuclear, the risk is concrete and always have an AI have that as unproven. It's just never gotten close to ours. Is meaningless. Humans do not have general plans. Neither AI emulation constructed by cosmic intelligence nor infinite evolutionary doesn't really allow for super intelligence performance of one. A problem is set by another. New optimization works for all theorems are true but generalizable. Cause intelligence, super intelligence is not possible. There's no one being the place for world domination. There's no integrated constructible system where you're ever adapting and working your handicapping some other way. Even if their general intelligence, they would be outcompeted by such as analysts intelligible, decreased capability for other types of problems. T. We meet the Afroduces throughout West Asia. Counterinterpret, we can specify Indians inside Merriam-Webster no day located inside or within the definition of a region is irrelevant since in modifies regions. The standard is picked, the neg will pick out of small countries' borders, which makes tiny debates inevitable, but their model is worse because the neg has generics like prolif for deterrence, but the time crunch. 1 hour is forced to restart. If you couldn't flow the standards in the 1 C, you shouldn't backflow them in the 2 hour. They were totally incoherent. The K. Nuclear war is a distinct apocalyptic category that requires resistance to prevent Hua 21. For peasants, hold apocalypse is already happening. Here we are the survivors. The problem is that next time there may be no survivors. We really want to finish our issue, but our enemy. Black revolution was about survival. Revolution was a task of restoring life in the wake of a policy that praised apocalyptic force. The revolution is the posture of the anti-black state, which is a group that had to the modern world and accept the reality for the destruction to overturn. It's not the same as calling the end world without a vision of just even apocalypse. The inevitable vision was always to rebuild or transform life in the wake of the role of black radical trend. Its collective consciousness informed by historical struggle for liberation because the stakes are apocalyptic people are going to choose life. Hyper real is wrong. Only our model of debate solves effective information management. Leak 16. students involved in validating to make arguments. This is empowering a student is able to recognize when info is needed, positivate, motivate students to go beyond basic info to achieve expertise and credibility, cultivating well-rounded info gathering pin. 8 students into recognizing how the knowledge can be effectively translated without institutions that can disseminate facts. Deliberation requires more time and reasoning. There's no facts to dominate weapons that precisely why also debate is valuable. Compliment cut the guard. I compliment the role of the values to vote for the better debater and weigh the consequences of the AF versus the competitive option. It's key to presuming AF fairness and leverage, which is key to AF leverage. Being able to leverage the 1AC is key to fairness and stable clash. The line by line. Most of these links are incoherent and apply to the Spark shell as well. Everything about living to fight another day and their nuclear war links more generally can be generalized to AI because they're just about why avoiding apocalyptic scenarios is not a good thing. So the fact that they said apocalypse is bad on the AI page, the performative contradiction, the fact that the role of the ballot is endorsing lexical strategies, which means Percon doesn't make sense. You can't contradict yourself in this round because your rhetoric is what shapes the ballot. All the alt is incoherent. The alt is holding ballot hostage. It doesn't solve anything. It's not theoretical lexicon to ease black suffering. If the rest of the candidates approach, then the perm is justified.
Okay, 5 minutes. Wait, were there any disets to the alt on the K?
Yeah.
What were they?
The first card about basically not solving apocalyptic threats in the status quo creates pessimism that makes change impossible.
Okay, sure. Wait, you didn't read the Spigler card on Spark, right?
The
Successful
second-
alignment produces temporal...
Yeah, like the it's good. No.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay. Really quickly on topicality, the critique spark.
Okay.
Yeah, just let me know when everyone's good. Oh, you good? You guys good? Oh, do you need the order? Actually, okay, I'm changing the order. It's gonna be topicality, and then really quickly on the critique spark.
TK Spark.
Yep. Just let me know when everyone's good. Okay, cool. Extend topicality, apps must reduce all presence in the entire West Asian North Africa region. In words and phrases, 18 proves that it means throughout and region. That dictionary, the entirety of the area are going for limits in ground spec explodes limits every individual or subset app which moves neck prep and skews ground based on perception of large withdrawals like insurance. But insurance is based on this as the problem is there was no precision independent voter / precision outweighs, which means I'm going for pragmatic outweighs. Pragmatics outweighs precision. It's the only way you can have an impact of precision in the first place. The only reason precision matters is because it's most predictable, but pragmatics controls the internal link to that. You conceded a pragmatic standard and only read picks against it, so you should hold the line for what the 2-error is going to look like. It was 13 seconds on a subset show. Obviously, the 2-error is going to be new, which means you should hold the line for their 1 picks argument. I'm going to make like 13 answers right now. Where is... Okay. The type of picks they're saying will happen to occur under their model are also bad because they'll occur under their own model. They'll exaggerate picks in the 2-error that you can have, i.e. 1 soldier or 1 troop, etc., which will also happen under the AF model as well, because you can just pick out of a troop inside of Turkey. 1 neg inter is the best of both worlds. 25% ensures that the AF can still specify to get out of picks versus large AF. 2 non-unique, there will always be picks, but while research and chosen positions are designed to answer them well. 3 and prove solved just when they are legitimate. Judges and debaters go for picks bad all the time. 4 the topic is so broad that picks are key to combat infinite combos of countries, troops, bases, excited countries, etc. 5 limits out ways you can leverage the AF against picks, but I can't leverage the AF against anything that is literally just a super small AF. 6 is turn. You incentivize picks because people resort to siege strategy without prep, so they'll pick out of things like words and phrases. 7 is literature checks the fact that there is a net benefit, proves that it exists, i.e. everyone who read Israel proves that and knew they needed answers to Iron Dome picks or Thad picks. If there's evidence for the pick, that's a sufficient burden that the AF should be able to prevent it. 8 is deficits exist, especially with modeling arguments to demonstrate no overstretch, and so weapons can go in other regions, and picks reduce the amount of presence. You should hold the line. I made 8 answers to their only argument on topicality. The 2-error is inevitably going to be new. Their only other argument is that we meet about the AF reducing through West Asia. That only meets the semantical inter, but that has nothing to do with the pragmatical inter, which means you should hold spirit over text in this context. Interpretation as such, there are arguments for limits in ground is when they specify. Obviously, the affirmative has specified Turkey, which means that in a form of pragmatic interpretation that matters. You made truth testing answers on reasons why pragmatic or semantics don't matter, which means that you should hold their line for pragmatics. Yeah, even if you don't buy that, they've conceded RBIs. Shouldn't lose if I lose topicality. The critique is conditional. You didn't ask. I'm kicking it. Spark. Asterisk outweigh everything was conceded. 1 negative value to life outweighs life in itself. 2 is its infinite suffering under util, which makes dying out preferable. This means that you can vote negative even if nuclear war does cause extinction, because extinction would be preferable to infinite suffering. 3 is also irreversible. It's the equivalent of dying except with suffering, which non-needs any of their extinction outweighs warrants. Tech causes asterisk was cold drops. First is accidents and mishaps causes to miss the line. 2, it doesn't even have to go rogue. As long as it exists, it gets in the hand of evil people, which means that they use it for malicious purposes. Things like terrorists, rogue actors, etc. Asterisk, specifically things like infinite torture chambers or paperclip, are just cold dropped out of the card. Conceding this means that the question should be who best combats Estrus. Think of it like extinction weighing. It's infinite suffering, so any risk of us solving is sufficient to vote negative. They have not read reasons as to how they solve Estrus, only that they solve extinction risk, so the impact, or so that the only risk is negative. Overwhelming consensus of AI researchers agree that AGI is likely by 2047 for the largest survey with the most recency. Expert audits are better than specific warrants. We'll never be able to discuss the intricacies that make AGI possible or not within a limited time, but experts have spent years reviewing the debate. That's the Grace 24 evidence. Cold drop, specifically quote, the chance of machines outperforming humans in every possible task was estimated by 10% by 2027, 50% by 2047. Prefer this only any evidence that says it's not possible because the survey accounts for your warrants and your authors, but concludes the opposite. The homo evidence. You should frame this debate through the Grace 24 evidence. The problem is that the card is a consensus study, which means that it would obviously take into account the 2021 evidence. 2 is any risk of AGI being possible should outweigh every reason that extinction outweighs the K is a reason why infinite suffering should turn their extinction impacts in the first place because it is a meta impact level weighing question. 3 is it's in the context of AI being an existential threat. We are going for AI causes extinction, just conceded scenario that bad actors take over AI and use it in bad ways. Look, the card is saying AI can't become existential. The negative never makes the claim that AI becomes existential, rather becomes infinitely torturing, which is just cold dropped. 4 is the card is indicting, quote, Bostrom's understanding of AI. The problem is that our card specifically takes into account Bostrom, which you've cold dropped. The card after Drace literally says we understand the criticisms of Bostrom and rework through those criticisms to understand why AGI can happen. You should read the evidence that the 1NC is presented and understand that it says that there are infinite suffering risks and that the 1AC has not said anything about that. I guess I'll go for determinism. Where is that argument? Okay. Going for determinism, extend the induction fails argument. It's incoherent to use the fast to justify future because there's no logical certainty that something happening before it happened again. You cannot predict a casual chain of events because it's impossible to predict a casual chain of events per our own evidence or per the induction stuff. If X action leads to Y results, then X action must be influenced by prior X action, which means that a casual chain of events structure any action rather than my will. You've conceded 2 arguments on this. First is that ought means a moral obligation, which means that a lack of obligation proves the resolution false. The resolution deceivably says that the AF has to prove an obligation and that you cannot be obligated and lack an obligation simultaneously, which is a permissibility trigger that was cold dropped. I don't need to win truth testing to this argument. This argument does not rely on proving the truth or falsity of the resolution, rather on proving a moral obligation. We have defined that ought means a moral obligation, and that moral obligations are impossible in the context of consequentialist ethics, which means that... Wait, I still have a minute now.
Sorry, go.
Yeah, I still have a minute. Which means that moral obligations are impossible. Their only argument against is that we didn't define negate. The argument isn't about a definition of a negate. It's about a definition of ought that proves that we trigger permissibility. They say that we assert causality, but there could be something transcendental. The problem is it's the burden on them to prove that consequences work, not the burden on me to prove that consequences fail. They have to win, that you can actually make predictions in order for them to win, that there is a active chain of their reasoning that leads to extinction. If they have not won that, you cannot vote for it. They did not answer the induction fails argument. You have not won a reason why there is something transcendental that allows us to predict consequences, and you only say that the SCEP argument, you can see that the framework isn't normative. That means you can't generate a universal obligation because normative frameworks require a universal obligation. You say that it generates a thing in this round. That is exactly what we're saying with SCEP. Look, 2AR has to be new on like every one of these questions. Infinite suffering, conceded. T, basically dropped. Like, I don't understand what the 2NR could do to preempt the 2AR more.
Okay. 17.
T case.
Case is spark. Skip.
T conceded pick straight turns lands and ground means any risk of offense outweighs. I just need to mitigate any of the mitigate the 8 points and you vote AF on this, or it flips every limits and negative ground argument they've made. It causes all the debates they think are unfair and educationally bankrupt, but in reverse, negative teams have an incentive to run as far as they can to the margins and read the most small, minutiae, Frankenstein weird picks that are the least literature surrounding them, which destroys one of your strategy. That outweighs the negative generics, but to fall back on like the deterrence DA and assurance DA, but we don't have any literature specific, and we still have to restart the 1AR even if we did B times Q4 is a 1AR restart, and that's way worse. The 1AR is only 4 minutes, and that's way too short to read a completely new advantage and also deal with things like procedurals. Top level for all of this offenses is all in the context of picks broadly, but not in picks under their model. Our argument isn't that picks are good or bad generally, but rather that picks under a model where the AF has to defend the whole resolution are bad because there is no AF tailoring or specific AF choice that allows us to build flexibility against AF. So group 5, 7, and 8, all about being picks good, or literature checks or deficits exist. Even if this is true in a vacuum, it's not true when the AF has to defend the entire resolution, because at that point the AF cannot leverage the 1AC or leverage the specific plan choice, and it incentivizes tiny picks and they can get out of the 1 point. This is a T sub substantial overview. Get off the blocks. The 2 point, I don't think there was a 2 point. The 3 point about perms again applies only if the AF has to defend can specify if the AF has to defend the whole resolution. You can't perm because a pick wouldn't a pick would be competitive since it wouldn't defend the entire resolution. This should clean up most of their offense because it's not in the context of picks broadly. It's you should evaluate picks only in the context of their model, which they have not done any comparative work on. The case. On the spark, the frame is that you should not evaluate surveys. You should evaluate warrants extended in the 2NR and 2AR. There are basically none as of the 2AR. They just said we cite experts. Citing experts is bad. It's an appeal to authority, which is a fallacy, and it takes the debates out of our hands because we just end up reading what other experts think rather than understanding what they think, which is which is why you should prioritize warrants and well-developed arguments. I'm going to extend the lower evidence. One is that superintelligence is possible for 3 reasons. One, cost. It's prohibitively expensive. Humans wouldn't invest in superintelligence to a sufficient point to get it to a place where it could cause the singularity. Two is that the evolutionary framework doesn't allow for superintelligence. There's a cap on how much their intelligence there can be. And 3 is that it would still lose to specialists in their fields, even if general intelligence is smart at everything. It does not outcompete experts in their fields. All of these are conceded warrants. You can read the lower evidence after the round. You'll find it pretty persuasive, given that they haven't extended a warrant. The only other thing I need to answer is this asterisk stuff. First, asterisks don't outweigh. If you didn't have this float in the 1AC, you should evaluate it. I'm pretty sure it was not there, and or hidden in like half of a tag and not a complete warrant. Second is that future generations outweigh. They conceded coming out of 1AC crossings that it is the quality of conscious experience that is valuable, which means that the capacity to experience pleasure in the future is more valuable than pain in the status quo, which means you should prioritize that. Green says that's the only thing that creates intrinsic value, which means that even if pain happens for a long time, you should prioritize for future pleasure. Lastly, the determinism stuff. If I won comparative worlds, this is irrelevant because you can just vote on Pascal's wager. Any risk that we prevent extinction in the future is sufficient to vote after determinism. You didn't define ought in the 1AC either, which means you don't have a skep trigger. The stuff about induction fails was incoherent because you haven't proven your burden, which means that any risk that there are moral obligations is sufficient to vote neg because they haven't won truth testing, which is the only framework this would work under.
Good to be.
Good round.